Your whole evening, but thanks for being here. It's March 27th, 2018, and at this point, I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Regina, may we have the roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Acuna.
Here.
Councilmember Borelli.
Here.
Councilmember Clarici.
Here.
Mayor Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Here. All right. We are on item 3, announcements and presentations to the public. So brief comments by the City Council. I will start to my left. Councilmember Wilkins. All right, Councilmember Clarici.
Yes, we are kicking off the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event. I didn't bring my shoes, and I'm remiss. I know.
You
I'm
should
sorry,
have.
Matt. I'm sorry. But imagine a pair of red pumps that fit me right there. Anyway, it's a wonderful thing. They'll probably tell us the exact date sometime, a couple months from now. Anyway. Center for Violence-Free Relationships, they're going to do a thing later, so I don't want to get too deep into it. But we are starting that off, taking pledges, so I will put that on my Facebook page pretty soon and then get out to my friends, anybody that wants to donate to myself or the other people that are walking, or just if you want to give them money,
Supervisor
that's fine.
Veerkamp already beat you to the punch.
You know, you could give to 2 people. It's okay.
Well, thank you for representing us.
There you go.
We appreciate it.
You know, anyone else can do this too, by the way. It's you know, Mark, anyway. Okay.
Chief.
Chiefs have been known to do this.
Chief has been known.
No pressure.
Suffrages of
Thank you, John.
chiefdom.
Councilmember Borelli.
Yes, I have. I had the pleasure, John and I went up to Eschaton, helped them celebrate their 50th anniversary. It was a success as usual. Food was absolutely fantastic, and I think all the residents came and had a lot of nice conversation. And I'm sorry I can't remember the administrator's name, the fellow who came from. Anyway, he has like 30 hospitals under his jurisdiction, and he was very nice, and he was very complimentary about Placerville and stuff. So, and real quick, I got a nice card said, "Dear Patty, thank you." Mayor Thomas couldn't attend, and so she had me present the proclamation. "Dear Patty, thank you for attending Eschaton's 50th anniversary celebration and for presenting the proclamation to our CEO, Todd Murch." There it is. I knew I had the name somewhere. "We appreciate all of the support that you and the City Council offer our community. Warm regards, Lori Randall, Sales Counselor."
Nice.
And just it is not the 50th anniversary of the Eschaton facility up there
Right.
in Spanish Ravine. That is been there about 10 years. They will be actually celebrating their 10th anniversary here fairly soon, but of the the corporate entity Eschaton itself. So
They're a wonderful asset in our town.
oh, it's a beautiful
and
community
Wendy?
up there.
Our 105-year-old
Yes,
lady that we attended
Mabel?
her party, Mabel, she was unable to attend, but her kids were there, and they said to be sure and tell you that she's using the blanket every day.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Councilmember Acuna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you guys for attending that, Eschaton. I appreciate your participation in that. It is we are lucky to have that facility in our community. I would like to remind everybody that our engineering department has been busily following up on some recent requests to make sure that we were all up to date on the various big projects in town. And last Friday, they issued the Western Placerville Interchange Phase 2 project update number 3. And they detail what's taken place in the past, where they're kind of currently at, and what they foresee to be the next phases of that. It is available on the city's website. I believe it's also available on the city's Facebook page. And it's also available in writing from the city, from City Hall. The important thing to note here is that they are going to begin grading once the wet weather ends, and there are going to be some temporary detours of varying lengths, one of which will close through traffic from Diamond Pacific Lumber over to Ray Lawyer itself. And the other one, which I think is real important, we want to make sure that everybody knows about this, is that the trail will be closed from approximately the 10th of May through December of this year. So the trail is going to be closed during this particular phase of the grading work. So begin to, change your plans now, and I will bring this up again probably in another couple of weeks and remind folks, again, the trail is going to, there will be the need to close it. All the details are in update number 3, and I thank the engineering department for making sure that we're all up to date on that project. So watch for that to start the 1st of May, assuming we get out of the rainy season. I'd like to take a minute and thank Mark Libano and his staff down at the wastewater treatment plant. Last Thursday afternoon specifically, the entire town got hit very hard, and the entire foothills did. And we did indeed see large volumes, millions of gallons of water come through that plant. The plant and the staff worked beautifully together. The retention pond was an absolute necessity, as millions of gallons of water ultimately was flown through that plant and properly treated and released into the creek. So thank goodness for the fact that we were able to get the plant repaired after last year, and we have a very dedicated crew out there working under Mark, and the efforts, I think they put in a 24-hour shift down there to make sure that we did not have a spill and we did not have any damage to that equipment. So thanks to him and his crew. And I'd like to also thank David Tharp from the Public Works crew. He was up working on a problem on Duden Thursday afternoon when that second huge downpour came through. And what actually happened was Country Club Drive around 1:32 o'clock was actually flooded with 6 inches to a foot of water. Since found out that I believe there's a construction project there. And we had a little mini debris flow where this preliminary grading work, due to that severe thunderstorm Thursday afternoon, washed out into Country Club Drive. I came down and there was actually a small pine tree floating down the road. I didn't think you could do that on Country Club Drive, but if you plug every drain with debris from a failure on a construction site, it turned into a lake pretty fast. And Dave and his crew were able to get out there and get every single drain was plugged from the bottom of Country Club all the way out to Cedar Ravine from debris from this private property project. Thanks to his quick response out there, he was able to get that water flowing back where it belonged and not down into people's houses, because we literally did have flooding taking place. So again, another great example of our small but very dedicated public works group. So thank you.
Well, and Mark, we also were, I think everybody, including us, got the information from the police department telling us of the streets that were flooded, and thank you for sending out that.
I'd like to echo my fellow council members. Thanks to our crews. That was just a crazy day, and we're naturally going to have some impacts from crazy weather like this, and I think our city crews did an extraordinary job protecting our city and its residents, and we very much appreciate everyone's efforts and the information that came from all departments. My brief comments are, would like to let everyone know that Goldbug Park opens for its season on April 2nd. And starting April 2nd, it'll be open 7 days a week. And so, take your kids, your family, relatives, friends from out of town and enjoy this amazing asset in our town. Would also like folks to know that next week on April 4th, we have the Draft Environmental Impact Open House on the Clay Street project. So if you have questions on the EIR process, if you have questions on the draft EIR, which if you haven't read it, it is actually, there's some really, really good information there. Tells you everything you want to know about that project. And so if you have questions, our Director Rivas will be here to answer any of those questions. Once again, April 4th from 6 to 8 right here in Town Hall next week. And would also like folks to put April 28th on your calendar. That's the annual Community Service Day that is held here in Placerville. And yes, that is such a neat event. If you haven't taken part in it, you go online, you sign up. All of our projects, city projects are listed. So whether you want to spread bark in a park, that's kind of fun to say, or if you want to paint the parking garage, I did that last year, and that was a really, really fun project. Re-roofing buildings, I mean, there's if you have a talent or an interest in it, we probably have a project for you. And I believe it goes from like 8:30 to 1, 400 people descend on this town and just work together to improve it. And then we meet at the park and have lunch, and it's just an amazing day. So unfortunately, I will be out of town this year.
Oh, sure.
I know,
Why?
because I'm having a granddaughter. So that does take precedence. So my granddaughters do that day in Oklahoma. So I will be in Oklahoma. But for those of you that are in town, sign up online. And do we have a website for, I meant to look it up before I got here. We'll put that on our website.
We can do that, yeah.
Yeah,
Sign up.
it's a really fabulous day. All right. Next, item 3.2. It's my privilege to invite Daniel Del Monte to the platform. He is the Assistant Deputy Director of Health and Human Services with El Dorado County. And I have the privilege of working with Daniel on Opportunity Knocks, the Continuum of Care. And Daniel, it is just a privilege to have you in our house today. And Daniel's going to be giving us an update on where we are with addressing homelessness in the city of Placerville and in El Dorado County. So with that, I will turn that over to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Mayor Thomas, members of the City Council. Pleasure to be here. Again, my name is Daniel Del Monte, Deputy Director for Health and Human Services, and I have a presentation for you this evening. As it gets booted up here, is there something I need to push on this? No. Okay. Well, while we're waiting, the presentation's about 15 minutes or so, and I absolutely recognize that there's a lot of information in it. And so as I walk through it, as we talk about it, if you have any questions that come up at the end, I'm more than happy to chat about it. It's really an ongoing conversation and really an introductory conversation to how we can partner across the county. And unfortunately, I didn't prepare my solo act for singing tonight, so I can't serenade the audience while this computer gets booted up here. There we go.
There we go. Great.
All right, so the presentation this evening, I'll be discussing housing, homelessness, and the continuum of care. First, I'll be starting off by discussing the correlation between housing trends and homelessness. I'll be sharing information globally across the state of California and comparing information with local data for El Dorado County. The second portion of the presentation will be about the continuum of care, what that actually is, the benefit for regions to support the continuum of care, housing first programs and what those are, and then ultimately finalizing the presentation with research and best practices for regions. As rents rise quickly in an area while income stays stagnant, the formula for sustainability gets out of sync. This chart here in front of you was produced by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. It shows you the percentage change in rent between 2000 and 2014 compared to the percent change in renter income. And what you see here is statewide in California, rents were up approximately 25% during that 14-year period, while renter income was down about 6%. So why do housing prices continue to spike in California? Well, a significant reason why is simply because there aren't enough units to accommodate the number of residents in our state. This chart here, also produced by the State Department of Housing and Community Development, shows you annual production of housing units for a 60-year period from 1955 through 2015. As you can see, there are ebbs and flows throughout that time. However, notably, between 2007 and 2015, that marks the lowest 8-year development trend in our state's 60-year period represented here. And it also comes at a time when our state's at its largest population. So ultimately, where does that put California if rents are increasing, renter income is decreasing, and we're in our lowest development phase in about 60 years? According to the California Realtors Association, California has a population of about 40 million residents. We currently have enough housing for about 25 million of those residents. leaving California ranked 49th in the country in housing units per capita. The 2016 median home price in California was more than double the nation's average. In 2016, average rents were 50% higher than the rest of the country. So a question to ask is there a correlation between lack of housing stock, high housing costs, and homeless figures? Well, the scope of the impacts can be noted when assessing what are called point-in-time counts. So what is a point-in-time count? Point-in-time counts are essentially a count of sheltered and unsheltered homeless persons, essentially a homeless census. They're conducted on a single night in January, every 2 years nationwide, and that ensures that you don't duplicate numbers as you count across regions. And point-in-time counts act as a baseline measure for how homelessness has been impacted or evolves across regions. Data suggests that where housing prices have risen dramatically, coupled with a lack of housing stock, that's generally where the largest spikes in homelessness tend to occur. And unfortunately, as mentioned, that perfectly describes California. Let's look at 2017 California and El Dorado County housing costs and point-in-time data to compare. So here there are several data points in front of you. The first is the median rental price change between 2016 and 2017. What you see is that the state of California had a 13% increase that year, while El Dorado County median rental price, according to the San Francisco Chronicle, had an 88% increase in median rental prices. Median housing prices the same year, 2016 to 2017, California saw an approximate increase of 7.4%, while according to the San Francisco Chronicle, El Dorado County saw an increase of 37%. In terms of point-in-time count figures, the homeless census figures, between 2015 and 2017, California saw an approximate increase of 15% during that time frame, while El Dorado County's figures jumped approximately 122% during that same time. So based upon all this data, we need housing that wage can afford. We need different housing accommodations that each level of earner can afford for themselves. We need enough housing to accommodate the number of residents in our state, essentially supply and demand. And ultimately, we need a variety of housing options, some with person-centered services to ensure that folks can retain the housing that they get into. So what can be done to increase person-centered housing options? Regions strive to create system responses to housing crises, responses that can help prevent individuals from becoming homeless in the first place, responses that maximize the ability to get homeless individuals rehoused with needed supports, responses that maximize self-sufficiency for each individual based upon their unique needs, as everyone has a different level of self-sufficiency and the supports needed, and one that produces the best results not only for the individual, but also for the community at large. And that's really where continuums of care come into play. And El Dorado County is lucky enough to have Opportunity Knox Continuum of Care. There are 399 continuums of care nationwide, so we're lucky enough to have one here in this county. COCs are Department of Housing and Urban Development programs. They're designed to promote a community-wide commitment to the goal of ending homelessness. El Dorado Opportunity Knox is made up of local agencies, partners, and resources to support the evolution of a local system response to homelessness and housing crisis here in El Dorado County. So operating a continuum of care, it's technical in nature. It's a federal program. It requires technical expertise. It requires complying with complex federal and state guidelines. And their operation and administrative oversight directly impacts the ability to secure funding from both the federal and state governments. With proper administration, continuums of care can produce meaningful data to help inform strategic decision-making for jurisdictions, service providers, and other stakeholders based on the highest priorities that the data tells us. It allows regions to leverage new funding streams to develop best practice programs as resources. And ultimately, it allows COCs to implement Housing First programs to successfully reduce homelessness. So what is Housing First? Housing First programs are an evidence-based approach to ending homelessness. They seek to connect a homeless individual with an apartment or permanent housing as quickly as possible. Programs focus on reducing barriers to housing, connecting the individual with whatever supportive services they need to retain the housing and not ultimately remain homeless. So why should regions consider investing in the continuum of care? Well, over the last 25 years, research regarding Housing First programs have demonstrated that between 75% and 93% of individuals placed in these housing programs retain their housing within 1 year. Unbelievable statistics nationally across all studies. Significant taxpayer cost savings are well documented along with these studies. And improved health outcomes for the individual and overall quality of life of the community are very well documented. So I brought some national studies to share just so you can see some evidence of the research that's been conducted. This slide shows results from an in-depth study conducted in Colorado in 2006, where systems costs for 200 chronically homeless individuals were tracked for 2 years prior to entering the COC supportive housing program and 2 years after. The 2-year period post-entry showed significant cost reductions across the board. Please note that the cost savings are per person per year. Results showed an average cost savings of $33,334 per person, or $6,666,000 over all program participants. Another medical study and cost analysis was conducted and published by the Journal of the American Medical Association in 2009. The program housed chronically homeless alcoholics, and a cost analysis was also conducted on individuals pre- and post-entry into the program. The costs analyzed were jail bookings, days incarcerated, shelter use, detox and treatment, hospital, and EMS. Results showed that the median cost pre-entry into the program per person was $4,066 per month. After 1 year in the program, the median cost per person was reduced to $2,449 per month. And it's worth noting that the 40% cost improvement also includes the cost of implementing the housing program itself. The last study I'll share was another COC program studied in Massachusetts, comparing Medicaid, shelter, and incarceration costs per person. Before entering the program, the study revealed an average cost of $33,514 per person per year. And after being housed and served in the program, those same expenses dropped to just $8,539, nearly a 75% reduction in costs. These are just some of the many examples of the studies that have been occurring over the past 25 years, and it's important to note the significant cost savings to government systems. But these are national studies, so let's look at some more local cost comparisons to see what our neighboring counties and what El Dorado County cost comparisons are. A cost comparison was conducted in Sonoma County in fiscal year 14-15. The comparison revealed that the cost of COC supportive housing programs per day was far cheaper than someone going into residential treatment, detox, jail, or hospital alone. Here you can see the actual costs as documented. On this slide, I have figures for Solano County in fiscal year 15-16. The study revealed comparable results, from $55 per day for supportive housing to $95 per day for supportive housing for the severely mentally ill, chronically homeless, all the way up to over $4,000 a day for inpatient stay at Sutter Hospital. And on this slide, we have El Dorado County figures showing a cost comparison comparable and some additional services for fiscal year 17-18. What we see first is a supportive housing program offered through the continuum of care. currently costing an average of $47 per day to provide housing and supportive services. Next, you can see the only other Housing First program offered in El Dorado County, which is through the Health and Human Services Agency. This program serves homeless families, and it costs $81 per day to house an entire family and provide supportive services. It's also worth noting that when broken down to the individual, it costs $27 per day per individual within those families. Next, you see a cost of either $85 or $155 per day for detox, and that depends on the contractor providing the service and what they charge. You see a per day jail cost of $115 per day. And it's important to note that that $115 is simply for the jail bed. So if there's additional mental health or physical health services offered, the costs go up from there. 1 day in the psychiatric health facility, or the PUF, is about $850 per day. And for someone to be on 5150 hold at Barton Hospital, it costs approximately $4,000 per day. As you look at these figures and the consistency across counties, please keep in mind that supportive housing, as shown in prior slides, significantly reduces system costs. Based upon El Dorado's figures, it appears that should greater numbers of supportive housing exist, the same types of cost savings would be evident here in El Dorado County. So some takeaways from the information. Studies continually show tremendous cost savings when supportive housing programs are made available, targeting the highest costs and needs individuals. As shown by comparing Sonoma, Solano, and El Dorado County costs, significant savings would be evident by increasing COC funding and program availability versus allowing long-term homeless residents to remain homeless. The COC will not increase program availability without proper administrative support, strategic planning, data administration, and capacity building. By El Dorado County, local cities, and other partners supporting COC administration, these groups can regionally coordinate resources to reach common goals and reduce local expenditures for all. All jurisdictions spend money to manage homelessness. By supporting continuum of care administration, cost savings to jurisdictions can be realized by strategically investing in resolving homelessness for the individuals. The COC can more quickly fine-tune its data and information, helping to support both regional and jurisdiction-specific strategies. So with that concludes the presentation. Again, a lot of information. Happy to answer any questions that the council has.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I think what I really appreciated about your presentation is that you gave us context for the challenge that we see, all around us in our cities, in our county, in our state, and that's helpful information to understand. I'm going to start off the questions here. You talk about supporting COC administration and why that's important. And I know that pretty soon we're going to be looking at partnering with various local agencies to fund a homeless coordinator. So my question is, how will the proposed homeless coordinator benefit this effort that you talked about tonight? And how will that position be a support to the funding partners like the city, the county, Barton Hospital, Marshall Hospital?
Right, and that's a great question. So every year there are reporting requirements for the continuum of care. So this position would help to meet those requirements. There's also a database called the Homeless Management Information System. It's used to track all the trends locally because ultimately there are needs for homeless students. EDCO last year had over 900 homeless students in our schools. There are needs with veterans, families, et cetera. But what types of programs should be pursued first and why? We really need to have solid data to drive decision-making, as does any business. So this position would be involved with ensuring high data quality, as well as meeting HUD's expectations, ultimately to leverage increased federal and state funding. That is the goal of this program, is it allows for funding to come into this region. And again, based on the figures shown, it's the most successful programs ever studied in the history of homeless systems of care. So that is the level of support that would come from this homeless coordinator. jurisdictions can all be a part of processes, asking questions about the data, seeing localized data, regional data, to help us all target common goals, both countywide as well as locally. So it really brings a global tool that we can utilize together and really coordinating our resources as a team.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'll open it to my fellow council members. Vice Mayor Acuna?
Daniel, I appreciate this information. It really is eye-opening because, as you know, the cost of managing these issues just grows and grows and grows exponentially. I mean, to the city, to the citizens, and you have given us some very hard figures this evening that prove that being able to address the issue and end the homeless situation is really not only the goal of the good of the community, but also there is the financial evidence that it does work. And I was really impressed that it even included the chronic alcoholic that is homeless, which unfortunately is a common theme in our area. And the poor folks just struggle. And to see that you can effectively, have some effectiveness and reduce that impact and improve the life for the individual involved, and also return them back to the community, and also be effective with the dollars that we're spending. I think it's a much better way than to just continually chase after this, which unfortunately seems to be about the best we can hope for right now. So thank you very much for this, and I'm excited to see this position move forward and how we can be a part of that going forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Borelli?
I just also want to echo those same thoughts. I really appreciate all this information, and I know you guys have been working on this for a long, long time, and now we've got some facts and figures, and hopefully we're going to be able to move forward really quickly. Thank you.
Councilmember Clarici?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to reserve a lot of comment right now because I have certain mixed feelings about the subject and about kind of the universe of it. My gut tells me that if the visible evidence of homelessness is not somehow, homelessness has been with us forever, okay, so no one expects it to be totally gone. I've been associated with this community for 40 years, and there's always been a few homeless people around. I mean, it's just kind of the nature of things. The community is very giving and very charitable, and they want to help people that want to help themselves, and even sometimes, in fact, I would say most of the time would be willing to help people that maybe have a hard time helping themselves. And that's a large quotient of this population. But my guess is that much like some of the struggles we see with the nomadic shelter, folks will grow weary of there always being this presence that doesn't seem to go away. And if you're putting money into it without that kind of a response coming out of it, I think it could be really challenging. So I think it's a great idea. I am actually encouraged by the continuum of care. I'm curious to, I want to see the job description more about this coordinator person, and go from there. So I think there's a lot of good positives, but I will reserve judgment on and comment on the rest of it. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Well, I just want to thank you for the informative but concise presentation that we got. Yeah, we got to go through it a little bit, so well done.
One final comment, specifically, Councilmember Clarici, I can appreciate the concerns with investing in new approaches to things. And what's great about this system is that we don't have to have gut feelings about where we should go. It's really based on what the data is suggesting, where we should target our efforts, and it's based on the evidence that is settled as the best practice as resolving homelessness for individuals. So the continuum of care is really a system response. Unfortunately, as the figures showed for housing, the things that cause homelessness, the primary reason with not enough housing stock, cost of living significantly rising while wage stays stagnant, those are separate issues. And so it's important to understand those differences and how we can use this strategically, but it's only one component of what's needed to really end homelessness and to support a whole system approach. This is one component.
For far too long, we've tried to throw money at a problem we didn't understand, which is a waste of money and not effective. so you've certainly helped paint the full picture of what we're dealing with and how we're approaching this in a collaborative approach. And I sure appreciate, I know you've had a really long day, and we so appreciate you being with us tonight and giving the council and the community a broader view of this effort that they've been hearing about for the last couple of years. And I just have to say that when Daniel came on board in El Dorado County, the COC took a major leap forward in professionalism and in expertise. And you've been an absolute godsend to this effort, Daniel. And it's just a privilege to have you working on behalf of El Dorado County and the city of Placerville on this effort. And we greatly appreciate your efforts.
Appreciate that. I'm happy to be here, and it takes more than one person and one entity. I mean, we all need to coordinate our efforts, so it'll take a system.
And we're doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Mayor, I just want to mention, he mentioned the support that we're looking for from several agencies, and so during our budget process, you will see that request come through to assist in the funding of that position for several agencies, not just us, so you'll see that at that time.
Great. Now we have a better understanding of what that's all about, so thank you so much. All right. Closed session report, City Attorney Driscoll.
Thank you, Mayor Thomas. There's nothing to report from closed session, as the council did not take reportable action.
All right, thank you. With that, we have the adoption of the agenda. Does any council member wish to change anything?
Move the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Agenda is moved. Ceremonial manners. Those are always some of my favorite. So tonight we are introducing a reserve police officer, Richard Austin, and police dispatcher, Lorna Ross. What an exciting evening. Both positions desperately needed, and so Chief Ortega, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Thomas. If I could get them both to stand up, Lorna and Richard. We're happy to add 2 people to our staff, and I'll start off with Richard. Richard Austin is our newest reserve police officer. He started his career as a police officer for the city of Long Beach, where he was born and raised, and he became a police officer in 1984 and was hired as a full-time officer in 1991. After a retirement from the Long Beach Police Department, Officer Austin transferred to the El Dorado County Sheriff's Department, where he worked for a short period and then retired. My correction there. Officer Austin was then asked by the Chief Probation Chief to come and work for him. Officer Austin worked as a field officer there for 18 months before working with the Placerville Police Department on a joint task force looking for wanted subjects. It was then that we decided to steal him from the probation department, with all due respect to the probation chief. He brings with him a world of experience in working from Southern California, including working in patrol, helicopters, gang suppression, transit enforcement, bomb recognition, active school shooter training, and a variety of other things that I could sit here till 10 o'clock tonight and read. Suffice it to say, his experience is a welcome addition to our police department. He moved to El Dorado County with his wife and son and 4 horses, and has been vacationing with his family up here since 1970. And we're happy to have him here on our department. So welcome, Richard. Next, we have Lorna Ross, who came to us from another industry. She came to us from the grocery industry after she worked there for 4 years and has lived in El Dorado County since 2014. And Lorna is already begun training as a dispatcher. I believe you're on nights now, right? Not yet. Not yet? Okay. She'll start working on nights, or on the other end of the shift for now, and then go to nights, and is progressing through that process. So we're very happy to have both Lorna Ross and Officer Richard Austin in our staff. So Regina, I think you want to administer the oath of office.
You have to be on display.
Yes. All right, come on up. Yes.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Richard Austin,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
Congratulations, welcome.
It is always a privilege to welcome people to our city family. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Not quite.
Not swearing her in. Do that, I guess, with the
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well,
Well, come up here
we
so
wanna
we
shake
can
your hand,
welcome
Lorna,
you.
come on up.
Welcome.
The city of Placerville is just so blessed to have our own law enforcement agency, protecting our residents, protecting our properties, and meeting the unique needs of our community. And that is a solemn duty that this council and our community greatly values. And so, Richard, we are just delighted to have a person of your experience, the depth and breadth of your knowledge here in our town helping us be safe and secure, and just really delighted that you would join us as a reserve officer. And Lorna, as I was sharing with you earlier, dispatch is such a difficult job, and you are the first part of contact with when people are in, really dangerous or just aggressive situations. And so your calm voice and strength will be a strength to our community in linking them up with the security services that they need. So we greatly value your work, and I know our chief has been waiting a long time to fill those dispatch shoes with just the right person. So we're just delighted you both are here, and thank you so much for committing yourselves to the city of Placerville. Any of my fellow council members?
Nope, you said it beautifully.
You said it.
All right, so welcome aboard, and thank
Welcome
you for
aboard.
being here tonight. So.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right. And with that, I would like to invite Matt Huckabee, the director of the Center for Violence-Free Relationships. Matt, we are delighted you are here tonight, and it is my privilege to issue a proclamation of the City Council declaring April 2018 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and has public health and safety implications for the city of Placerville, and whereas the goal of Sexual Assault Awareness Month is to increase visibility, create public awareness, encourage conversation, educate communities on how to prevent it, and expand national efforts on a local level, and whereas we call on our community to come together to embrace your voice and assist in informing ourselves and our community members on how to use our words to stop sexual violence before it happens by promoting safety, respect, and equality. And whereas with passion and dedication, many people in the city of Placerville support and join with hundreds of sexual assault service agencies and organizations nationwide taking action to prevent sexual violence. And whereas April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month and each day of the year is an opportunity to change for the future. And whereas the Placerville City Council strongly supports the efforts of national, state, and local partners, and of every citizen to actively engage in efforts to continue to support sexual assault campus programs, sexual assault prevention programs, and rape crisis centers. Now therefore I, Wendy Thomas, Mayor of the City of Placerville, do hereby join advocates at the Center for Violence-Free Relationships in communities across the country in playing an active role to prevent sexual violence and proclaim April 2018 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the city of Placerville. So.
Get in the middle.
Thanks, Steve. All right, I'll turn your microphone on. Let you say a few words.
So thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. And this is a beautiful proclamation. And I hope that people heard the words that were contained in this proclamation. Within this proclamation are the keys for how a community can come together to respond to sexual assault, to prevent sexual assault, and it really does focus on that education component that seems to be distant from the issue of sexual assault, and those components being trust, respect, equality, helping people find their boundaries, find their voice. That is how we work together to start moving the needle and turning the tide on sexual assault that is happening inside of our community. And just a couple of thoughts for you quickly. When you think about 1 in 4 women are going to be sexually assaulted at some point in time in their life, 1 in 6 men are going to be sexually assaulted at some point in time in their life. And then think about this. If you are a female going to a 4-year university, there is a 25% likelihood that that first year you are going to be sexually assaulted. This is the reality. And the other thing that is shocking, when we look at the data that shows us why people perpetuate sexual assault and what strategies and tactics that they use, what stands out as the most shocking component of that is the number one strategy that is used in order to commit sexual assault is coercion. And within that label of coercion, the specific strategy is for guys to pretend to care more about women than they really do. That is difficult to overcome. And that is why the efforts that the center is engaging in starts at a really young age, middle school. And we believe that if we can create an entire middle school age group of kids who believe in themselves, who understand what boundaries are, who have a voice, who understand their worth and their value as individuals, who understand how to engage in conflict resolution, who understand how to say the right thing at the right time to the people that need to hear it the most, that will go a long way to stopping what we are seeing happening as kids grow older, and particularly as our young girls go off to college. So you know that we have an event coming up, and I am going to turn this over to Stevie, who spends her time at the center. She's in our community education department, and she is out there educating nearly 500 students in our community about those things that we just discussed. So I'm going to turn it over to Stevie and have her do her thing.
Wow. Welcome, Stevie. We're delighted you're here tonight.
Well,
Tell us about your good work.
So I am the community education
Can you pull the microphone
Yeah.
down so we can hear you? Thank you.
I am the community education assistant at the center. I teach a program called Teach. It's an anti-bullying program. We work in 3 schools here, and we do about 17 classes a week. I see all the same, roughly 500 students a week at the same time. Many of them now I've actually known since the 4th grade, and they're getting ready to graduate 8th grade. So I've developed a relationship with them over the last few years. But really what I wanted to tell you guys or invite you to is our walk a mile. It is Saturday, April 14th here in this building. Check-in starts at 10 and the walk starts at 11. I remember you said it was a couple months away. You have a couple weeks. And if you guys want, you'll definitely come out and support Councilman Cleary. Sorry if I say that wrong.
Clerici, yes.
He will be in his nice red high heel shoes. I do apologize for not bringing some of those tonight. And the walk is just 1 mile right in downtown Placerville. It's a lot of fun. We have had the chief police walk in the past and the commander. And we have about 25 walkers this year. We have some sheriff's department, I believe. We have a DA office, some firefighters, as well as the Rogue Brotherhood, who does a lot of work around the community. And yeah, it's always a fun event. You'll be done around 12:30, 1 o'clock at the latest. There is food too, and also at the event we will be displaying artwork that is done by the kids that I work with through the center. So there'll be some neat artwork around, and we hope you guys are able to come out. And you don't have to wear high heels if you don't want to. I mean, I encourage it, but you can just come walking in your walking shoes and you'll be fine. Thank you.
Oh, Stevie, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I can't believe you do 17 classes a week in our schools. I mean, what an amazing program.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, bullying is such a pervasive challenge throughout our nation at all levels. And so if we can, get an awareness in our schools, then we can, build on that. And so the work that you do at the center is just so vitally important to our community, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your kind words.
Any other comments?
I just, real quick, I have a question for you. How long has this school program been, how long have you been doing it, and what are the results that, do you kind of give us a ballpark?
Yes, so the TEACH program, I have been involved with it for 4 years now. I do know that it has been going on longer, but about 5 years ago, from my understanding, it did get a little bit of a revamp. So my boss is Kathy Borland. She's the one who revamped it. And our results are actually pretty amazing. We have, Gold Trail is our specific school that we work at, and we have data after this year. We'll have data for 5 years from the 8th graders that are graduating. We have data from them in the 4th grade. I'll be honest, bullying was going down among our schools, and then about last year and a half, it did spike a little bit. There's been multiple factors as into why the bullying may have spiked. However, now this year it has slowly gone back down. So once we do our post-survey at the end of this year, we'll be able to have a better understanding of really where has it been. But probably one of our biggest results is that we have saturation, starting young, and everything is age appropriate. We do healthy relationships, healthy friendships. Everything is age appropriate, but starting young has really been. We've seen the best ever with those students, the ones who have had it repeatedly.
It just makes sense, and thank you very much for all your participation.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. All right. We are now on item 7, public comment. And this portion of the meeting is reserved for people wishing to address the council on matters not on our agenda that is within the subject jurisdiction of the City Council. And if you wish to speak, we invite you to come forward. State if you'd like to give us your name. We always like to keep track of who you are so I know how to address you. And we have 3 minutes for comments. And with that, of course, golden rule, don't say anything that you don't wish to be said about yourself. Those are just simple guidelines. And so first of all, we'll ask any written communication. Mr. Morris?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have 2 items of written communication tonight. One is on your agenda, letter from Susan Rodman, received March 16th, concerning waterline issues up on Big Cut Party area. And our recommendation is that you refer that to staff to look into and bring back a report for you on that. So we can do that. The second item was received after the agenda was posted, which is a letter from Evelyn Veerkamp to the mayor, myself, and Pierre Rivas regarding the current EIR, draft EIR for the Clay Street Bridge Replacement Project. It is a request to grant for a 30-day extension of the comment period, which currently closes on April 18th of this year. The request cites 4 documents that are not attached to the draft EIR, and it also talks about some other documents, but specifically cites these 4 documents that were not attached to the EIR. And I'd like to refer you to the actual EIR, page 1.0-5 of the EIR under appendices, states the appendices include technical data and other materials used to prepare the draft EIR. Those appendices are included in the EIR, and if you buy that with the appendices from the city, those are included. The next line of that statement says specific documents referenced in the draft EIR sections are available for review upon request. So that is specifically in there that not all of the reference documents are included. However, they are available upon request and have been available in the planning department since the posting of the draft EIR. So I just wanted to give council that information. They are available. When we received this letter, which was yesterday, today I had my staff actually post all of those documents on our website, so they are now available at the same place where the EIR is available on our website. I wanted to note, I took a quick look at the documents just to see how much there was, and I would guess there's probably well over 2,000 pages of documents that we posted, my secretary posted this afternoon on there. So those are available for anyone else. Going further, this is a request to the mayor and myself. If the council would like to have this considered at a future meeting on, we could post this on your, put this on your April 10th agenda for consideration. And I can take that recommendation when we get to that point for future agenda items on our agenda, if you would like.
Item 14.
Item 14,
Yes.
thank
All
you.
right. Thank you for that explanation. And does the council wish to receive on the letter from Sue Rodman, assume that we'll have staff to look into the issue and get back to Ms. Rodman on that matter? Good. Okay, great. All right, thank you for the communications. And with that, the floor is yours. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I have a question for the city manager. Cleve, has there been any other requests for these documents that you were just discussing?
I'll look at Pierre Rivas, but not to my knowledge. These specific documents that are referenced here.
We did receive a request from another individual that wanted one of the documents that were on that reference, and that was the Dominicelli and Associates 2009 hydrological study, and that was provided to that individual.
That was provided, correct.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Sure appreciate staff's response. All right, with that, the microphone is now yours. If you wish to address this council, come on down. Good evening.
Good evening, Evelyn Veerkamp, Placerville. I'm just continuing on from where Cleve took us a few minutes ago. Do I understand that the 4 documents that were requested are a bulk of 2,000 pages? Is that right? That you've posted on the city website, or?
Not just those 4 documents.
Okay.
There's probably 100 documents that were included as part of that reference material, or more. I didn't count how many there were, but there's a lot.
Okay, thank you very much, Cleve. Let me just go down this quickly, it won't take long. The documents that were requested were an archaeological survey report for the Clay Street realignment, a historical resources evaluation report, a hydraulics report, and a hydraulic studies. And I haven't given you all the information that was with that, but those were the reports that were requested. The document which was submitted to the city yesterday said, also not released for public review were the farmers market alternative concept designs associated with mitigation of a land use impact identified in the draft EIR. All of these items need to be available for public review during the comment period so the public can have a fair chance to evaluate the adequacy of the draft EIR. Furthermore, several Public Records Act requests have not been fulfilled. Most importantly, those that demonstrate how bridge replacement was determined to be more feasible than rehabilitation of the bridge, including the justification made to Caltrans by the city, as well as the report in which Caltrans determined that the bridge was functionally obsolete. All of this information is needed to inform the comment process. Finally, the April 4th open house event will be the first chance for the public to interact with the city about this project since March 2016. 2 weeks after such a long period of no updates on a project as complex as this one is not enough time for many members of the public to formulate comments. This is also the first public event for the project that was advertised widely via the water bills. So it is the first direct outreach to a broad audience. Making the studies and other information above available on the city's website and a 30-day extension on the comment period to May 18th, 2018 are reasonable requests given the complexity of this project and the high degree of public interest. If it is not possible to expedite this decision, please add it to the April 10th City Council agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Veerkamp. Is there anyone else?
Good evening, Kirk Smith. On the subject of records requests and what's been described a moment ago, I wanted to point out that the city manager and the city clerk do an exceptional job of responding to record requests in a very efficient, professional fashion. However, I want to respond to a couple things that have been said here about that subject. One person said on the council some time ago about the burdens of records requests. All the subjects, and likewise, Councilmember Acuna asked how many people have asked for these things. So just to let you know, all the documents that Mike Grobish has asked for, he's shared with people. So that avoids a lot of duplication. You know, it's available on a thumb drive that way. And I don't know why those things were not available long ago, because number one, everyone, I think, would suggest we have a pretty good idea about how you would vote. After all the time and money on this project, it's hard to believe that you would not approve it. However, with whatever caveats might be the case. And likewise, it's hard to believe that somebody might challenge it. If you have a secret challenge, as the agency that's responsible, the lead agency, you're responsible for providing the administrative record. What I know about that from the court case involving the courthouse is the administrative record was about 5 feet. You put all those binders together, stack them sideways, and it's about 5 feet tall. So all of that material ultimately has to be provided anyway. You might in the future think about posting it on the web, just as you've done now for some piecemeal fashion. I'd also add that all that information that's been received so far has been extraordinarily helpful. A lot's been learned and allows those people who are significantly aware of some of the specific issues to learn so much more and analyze it. So it's very helpful information. Ultimately, records requests, that act follows the federal law, and that's been mimicked or copied all throughout the country. It's predicated on the notion that this is a government of, by, and for the people, and the people necessarily have to be informed. It's our government. So that's the purpose of the Records Request Act. And it may sometimes seem burdensome, but there are lots of ways to reduce the burden. I mentioned one the last time this came up with. You can also get externs from graduate schools in the area, law schools, to help with this subject. Can come with systematic ways to retrieve documents and other material that can be handled. So under the law, the presumption is it's to be disclosed. Then you have the exemptions, but just because there's exemptions doesn't mean they have to be applied. So those are the ways in which the records request can be reduced. I hope in the future that these kinds of materials are made available long well in advance, because Mike says that he's been asking for these for several months. Don't know, haven't seen the request, but I could make a document request for his request. So it's not some belated idea. And these things are very significant when you're looking at a program like that. And I just asked the city's attorney can certainly correct me, but my understanding is if there's a challenge, you have to prepare the administrative record, which could be very substantial. And a lot easier way to handle it could have been to put it on the line already. Those are just some suggestions. But just to let you know, the information that's been available so far has been very helpful, and we all look forward to learning a whole bunch more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Is there anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening. Tom Compston, Placerville, and I'm chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee for Measures H and L. And in that capacity, and those, of course, for anybody who hasn't been paying attention, those are the sales taxes that fund water, sewer, and road projects in the city. I wanted to come up and invite the public to our next advisory committee meeting, which is Thursday, April 19th, 6 p.m., right here at Town Hall. This is a particularly important meeting because we will be going over staff's recommendations, which will then be considered by the committee and become a recommendation to the City Council on what projects should be done in the next fiscal year. Especially with Measure L, next year, the 2018-19 fiscal year, we'll finally have been collecting funds for a year and actually have enough funds to do some substantial projects. So there's naturally a lot of curiosity about how that money is being spent and is going to be spent. If you want to inform yourself as a member of the public, you should come to this meeting on April 19th. Thank you.
Great. And what time is that, Tom?
6 p.m. right here at
6
Town Hall.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, Sue.
Good evening, Sue Rodman, author of the letter that you have. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I don't think we have any specific because it's not exactly on, well, it is on our agenda, but I think direct staff to work with you to get those specific issues resolved and answered, and I think that's the most appropriate place to have it as staff working with you to get your
I agree,
concerns
and
addressed.
thank you very much for passing this off to our very competent staff.
Yeah, our staff
Thank you.
always is ready to assist and work with our residents in issues of their concern. They always have an open door policy to that, and we appreciate their efforts on that. Is there anyone else that wishes to address this council? Good evening, welcome.
Hi, I'm Eric Nelson. I live in Placerville, my first time here. Thank you to the mayor and the council, city attorney, clerks, the chief, and everybody who's here. I will try to stick way below 3 minutes. The reason I'm approaching you is the same issue that's been taken to many city councils and many county boards all at the same time, and the issue has to do with Senate Bill 54, which is codified in Government Code Section 7282, and it instructs police officers to do something very dangerous, which is not to cooperate with other police officers. And I can tell you as a former police officer, that's frightening. Specifically, what's happened is Shasta County, City of Los Alamitos, and the City of Anderson have already opted out of Senate Bill 54. Currently, Yorba Linda, Buena Park, Huntington Beach, and Mission Viejo in the County of Orange all have it scheduled on their agendas, and there are many more city councils and county boards that are considering this, but they haven't put it on their agenda yet. So I'd like to request when you get to item 14 that you consider looking at model legislation that I've written for you. It's copied, not copied, but it's I have looked very carefully at the municipal code here, and I've also gotten a copy of what was passed by the City of Los Alamitos, and I believe I've written something close to a turnkey resolution. So thank you for considering it. How should I distribute it to the council?
Do you have a hard copy of it?
I do.
Okay, I
and I
invite
have
you to
enough
give
for
it.
the audience also.
Okay, great. I invite you to give it to our city clerk, Regina, and we appreciate your efforts. Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Nelson. Is there anyone else? All right, with that, I'll close public comment and get some questions answered. Mr. Rivas, my first questions are for you on the draft EIR. First of all, how many public meetings are required by law once the draft EIR is out for public comment?
The city would be required to hold at least one meeting to certify the environmental impact report, and certification essentially means that you find that it was prepared in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act.
Okay, so that will happen once the comments are complete.
Once the comments are received on the draft EIR, then staff and the consultant will review all written comments received, and we will respond to each and every comment that has been received, and that would constitute a part of the final EIR.
Okay.
So the final EIR would constitute the draft. Any changes made to the draft that were found to be in error or additional information to be included, and then the response to comments.
Great, thank you for helping us understand that process. And have all the necessary documents required for the draft EIR been made available throughout this process?
Yes, all the appendices are available, both hard copy and by disc. And then, as Mr. Morris stated earlier, we went ahead and loaded on our website all of the other documents that we have available that are referenced within the EIR document.
Okay. Do you have any other comments that you'd like, to offer, hearing some of the comments tonight?
I know there are a lot of members of the public that probably don't understand the environmental review process and what's involved in preparing an EIR, the purpose of the EIR, and how that serves the decision makers when you finally consider to approve the project. So staff certainly encourages all interested persons to attend our April 4th open house here at Town Hall so that they could ask questions and become more engaged in the process.
And you will be here to answer their specific questions throughout that
That's correct,
evening.
yes.
Great. We appreciate that. All right. And then my final question is, thank you so much, Tom, for letting folks know about the April 19th meeting of the Measure HL Advisory Committee on the proposed projects for this next year. That's going to be so important, as there's so many roads that people are up in arms about in water projects, and great to give folks an idea to see the scope of work that we're considering this next year. How additionally are we going to get the word out about that meeting? Is it on our website, Facebook?
Yeah, we always do them on our website. That's just their normal meeting, but we'll see what we can do to increase the publicity of it so we can get people out to that.
We
So
put a banner out on, or put our banner out?
we can do that.
Especially
yeah.
with the subject matter,
Right.
the project list, because that's an important one. Okay, great. Any other comments?
I have a specific question. Pierre? Specifically, does CEQA require any meetings during the comment period?
No meetings are required during the comment period.
Thank you.
Typically, that's the time when folks will review the documents and hopefully provide meaningful comments on some aspect that maybe they have expertise to help improve the document when we create the final.
Yeah.
And I guess it's important, and sorry to go on a little bit, but I think it's important for everybody to understand that that's why it's called a draft environmental impact report, because it's the opportunity not only for the general public, but for other responsible agencies, trustee agencies, and the like to actually look at the document and make any necessary corrections so that when the document finally comes to you, the final decision makers, that you have a document that pretty much covers everything that's required under the law.
Right. And considering the litigious nature of this environmental document, it would be very important for us to let the public know that we are following the letter of the law as prescribed.
That's correct.
Any other comments? All right. Thank you all. With that, we're on item 8, the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. Anyone? No? Does any member of the public wish to comment on an item? No? All right. With that, do we have a motion on approval?
I'll move consent.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye.
All right. We have no items pulled, no ordinances, no public hearings. Number 12.1, receive and file the West Slope Stormwater Resource Plan and presentation. So, Mr. Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. What staff is asking is that the council receive and file what we're calling the West Slope Stormwater Resources Plan and receive a presentation that will be given by the water agency. So let me start by saying Proposition 1, which is also known as the water bond, was approved by the voters back in November of 2014. And what this did was approve a little over $7.5 billion in general obligation bonds for state water supply infrastructure projects. And it also includes projects that involve stormwater and dry weather runoff capture projects and watershed protection and restoration projects. Following that was Senate Bill 985, and that requires that public agencies develop a stormwater resources plan, which we call it the SWRP, as a condition of receiving grant funds from a bond that would be approved after January of 2014 for storm water and dry weather runoff capture projects. Senate Bill 985 amended the Water Code to encourage the use of stormwater and dry weather runoff as a resource to improve water quality, reduce localized flooding, increase water supplies for the beneficial uses and the environment. The El Dorado County Water Agency took the lead to the development of the West Slope Stormwater Resources Plan, which was prepared by Stantec Consulting Services under contract with the Water Agency, and it was also prepared in collaboration with the County of El Dorado and the City of Placerville to satisfy this requirement. The El Dorado County Water Agency took the lead in collaboration with the county and the city, and this covers the entire West Slope geographic area, which starts at the what we would call the Great Basin Pacific Ocean Watershed Divide within El Dorado County, and this excludes the Lake Tahoe Basin. The Stormwater Resources Plan focuses on current statewide policy to integrate water management and regulations for a watershed-based, multi-benefit approach to incorporate stormwater management as a resource as opposed to just being considered a hazard into the overall water resources management effort. The Stormwater Resources Plan will serve as an umbrella to comprehensively address stormwater management of the entire county's West Slope and does not replace existing or more locally adopted plans, such as, for example, the 2005 Placerville Stormwater Management Plan. Plan development also included collaboration with agencies having federal land management responsibilities within the county, such as the Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Reclamation, and the U.S. Forest Service. This plan underwent a 30-day public review comment period that began on January 26th of 2018, and that comment period ended on February the 26th of this year. The El Dorado County Water Agency Board received the Stormwater Resources Plan and the presentation at their meeting on March 14th of this year. The El Dorado County Board of Supervisors will receive the Stormwater Resources Plan and presentation at their meeting on April the 18th of this year. The Stormwater Plan will also include development of a financing strategy to help leverage available state and federal funding sources for plan implementation, including the Stormwater Resource Plan partners becoming eligible to seek funding under Prop 1 bonds for the multi-benefit stormwater projects. I want to emphasize that the West Slope Stormwater Resources Plan is what we would call a living document, being subject to updates every 5 years or as necessary by the Stormwater Resources Plan partners, the county and the city. Regular monitoring and data updating of the identified projects will also be ongoing. And at this point in my presentation, staff wishes to extend its thanks to the leadership of Mr. Ken Payne and the Water Agency in developing this comprehensive Stormwater Resources Plan in conjunction with the county and the city, and for the professional work that was performed by the staff of Stantec, who were a pleasure to work with in this tremendous effort. So staff is recommending that the council receive and file the West Slope Stormwater Resources Plan and then the presentation you're about to see. So with that, I will turn this portion of the presentation over to Mr. Ken Payne, General Manager of the El Dorado County Water Agency.
Mr. Payne, we're delighted to have you here tonight and walk us through this pretty incredibly comprehensive program. So thank you for being here tonight.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you for having me, allow me to come and present today. My name is Ken Payne. I'm the General Manager for El Dorado County Water Agency. So tonight we're going to talk about the West Slope Stormwater Resource Plan. Like Pierre was saying, this plan covers the El Dorado County portion, excluding generally the Tahoe Basin area. So this is the first comprehensive plan that we have for the county itself. So is there a way to? Oh. So our approach to the Stormwater Resources Plan, in your traditional type of putting together stormwater plans, it was mostly focused on flood hazards and pollution prevention control. So that's your traditional stormwater programs. What we're looking at here under the new plan and the new regulations is looking at a multi-benefit approach, which makes a lot of sense. A lot of areas of the world actually approach stormwater and watershed management this way. So you're looking at multiple multi-beneficial approaches for water supply, environmental protection, and aquatic protection, pollution protection. So when you look at those, we have some of the focused areas on there, and as we put the Stormwater Resource Plan together, in our partnership with the city of Placerville and El Dorado County, we wanted to make sure everybody kind of understood our roles of whereas the El Dorado County Water Agency really focuses in on the long-term planning of the county. That's largely our role to help facilitate a lot of these discussions and documentations, monitor regulations, monitor grants, and things like that. So, whereas the government bodies of El Dorado County and the city of Placerville have public safety and really the regulatory compliance control, the accountability of a lot of the programs. And we're here to support that and those kind of programs. When we go through and look at the county itself on the west slope, it's a pretty diverse land. The big green area in the middle is forest lands, open space and forest lands, and then the multicolored areas are where we've developed our large portion of the west coast of the county. So when we look at this and the presence of the foothills, the watershed protection, we are at the headwaters of a lot of California water supply. So protection of our water supply, protection of the biosystems in the watershed itself is important for us. It's a really valuable asset that we have. As we put together the stormwater resource plan, like Pierre was saying earlier, our initial objective was to focus in on preparing ourselves for Proposition 1 grant programs. But we're kind of practical people, so if we were going to spend our time and effort on putting this program together, our approach was, were there other benefits that we can make and use this plan so it, when you put this plan together, it just doesn't sit on your shelf. And so the idea was to make it a very dynamic document, and we'll talk about a little bit later of what we're going to be doing with this document in this program as we move into it. We broke the plan into three basic components, addressing storage, basically storage for flood protection and water supply. You have the watershed management component, and then you have your traditional stormwater management program. So when we look at these areas, the activities, the engineering, the planning, for each of these activities, there's a common core of work. And in the old approach and the old methodologies, we would hire consultants, we would use our staff time to do independent studies to address individually each of these components. And our objective now is to try to get these multiple benefits. If we're going to look at a storage project, are there other benefits for watershed protection and flood control protection within the county itself? A lot more efficient, and a lot more practical. When we started the program, we did reach out to multiple agencies within the county. The agencies that are highlighted in bold on the left are the agencies that responded to us and participated in the developing some of the project listings that we have within the plan itself. I'll bring back a point Pierre brought where when we're looking at these projects and plans, we wanted to emphasize that the El Dorado County Water Agency, our whole objective is to help facilitate and find common projects. So when you're going after grant money, if you're doing it as a region, multiple agencies, your likelihood of getting grants rises significantly instead of doing it individually. So having these common list of grants was done purposely. And then we end up dividing these projects out so that we, depending on those three elements, we can identify multiple benefits and then put those projects together when we go after grants now instead of individually going after them. So,
excuse me, Mr. Payne?
Yes.
So the ones in bold responded.
Correct.
And the ones not in bold did not respond.
Correct.
Okay. Is this, I mean, there might be perfectly good reasons why the folks to the right did not respond and will be maybe lassoed and brought into this at some future time. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's some fairly, I mean, the issues of this issue on in transportation, certainly parks and trails, not that they're huge issues, but they do kind of dovetail together. Is this plan compromised because of that, or are we okay with the fact that those folks didn't respond?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
They're okay. We're okay. that was part of the importance of making it a dynamic document. So the project listing, the participation in this program allows that flexibility. And we'll talk about the tool that allows that flexibility that I think you would like to see.
And I wasn't trying to call them out. I just was, curious about that.
No, well, when you start a new program,
Yeah.
some of the agencies, because in this county, I'm fairly new to the county, and people are busy, staff are busy. And so I could understand, here's this new program, the agency's doing stuff it hasn't done before. We'll get to them later, Pierre was smart enough to take advantage of it right away, so.
We have excellent staff. Not that the county doesn't. We all have excellent staff. And you're right, they're very overworked. And
So I'm glad I didn't call them out, but you sure did. Okay, well, thank you very much. That's fine. Thank you.
So we're looking at in the multi-benefit project considerations, what does that really mean? Those are some of the components of what we're classifying as multi-benefit project considerations. The environmental component is very common, water supply, flood management, water quality. We're adding the community component to that because for a large part in the discussions, that's who we serve. I mean, that's basically what we're trying to do, and it's part of the prioritization of the projects is to address those kinds of issues that are important to our community itself. We also thought the implementation complexity in that components is a very important component. So whenever you develop a plan, largely you'll see some plans, they get developed and they somewhat get implemented in some enforcement. But if you develop the development, implementation, and enforcement provisions of any plan, those are the successful plans that you'll see throughout the state, and that was our goal. So in the plan itself, we for this first round we identified 90 projects that are on the list that went through the cycle, and there's quite a bit of diversity. There's a couple of storage projects. There's 35 watershed management projects. El Dorado County had 40 projects, so the list itself was pretty diverse. And people when we went through the project, some projects got thrown out because they weren't ready yet or we didn't have enough information. Placerville submitted 18 projects. We have 18 projects on there. So, and some of them are, around hot spots of the city. Some of them are good for your long-term planning for yourself. The project evaluation, when we went through, it was always easy to identify the projects. We were soliciting projects. Everybody had to fill out forms. Our project manager, Rebecca, was really hard on us to fill them out completely, I have to say. And then going through the project evaluation, it was done as a group. There was a lot of input, give and take on some of the project developments. If we felt it was a strong project, our advice to our project partners was to help them develop their project description a little bit more thoroughly so it would better qualify for grant programs. And that's part of our role, is to help facilitate these. And then we went through and prioritized the projects. That wasn't intended to prioritize them in order of putting, a water agency project over a county project. And we were trying to prioritize it in terms of qualifications for grants, how ready were they for a project. So the categories were based off that, not in a competitive project selection type environment. And as we went through, we didn't receive any comments from the public on these projects, so it's pretty quiet. So we had 15 top priority projects. We're actually going to start some of these tomorrow to start facilitating some of the discussions on them. We had 2 storage projects that we're looking at, Alla Reservoir, Reclamation, Bureau of Reclamation's identified, and actually Congress has appropriated $3 million to do a feasibility study for that reservoir. So we're starting that study now. That's not part of the 2 projects we're meeting tomorrow. For City of Placerville, 2 of the projects on the bottom, the stormwater detention basin, Hangtown Creek, and the Cedar Ravine Road drainage improvement projects were identified as 2 of the top priority projects that we felt were ready, that we could go under. So part of our target grants, Per mentioned the state Prop 1. We're also developing a tool that looks at some of the state and federal programs. So, USDA or Army Corps of Engineers, those types of programs that have grants that come out periodically, and so we will be monitoring those and selecting projects that would qualify for those applications. That's where the dynamic list comes really into play. Which gets into our data management tool. So we talked about developing the plan. We're going to implement it to try to maintain it itself. We've extended Stantec's contract to develop a data management tool that we're working on with the partnerships, the three entities, to kind of set up a data management tool that we could all have access to, load up projects when we feel. We're not here to judge each other's projects, so each agency can load their projects up, fill in the elements that are in that project. Then if a grant comes out, we will look at it and then contact Placerville and say, this grant's coming out. We think these projects will fit into your grant program, so do you guys want to go for it? So, the implementation, the process itself, so I think Mr. Rivas went through the process. The Water Agency received and filed on March 14th. We're here at the City of Placerville tonight. We're going to the Board of Supervisors on April 18th. And then we'll look at updating this every 5 years. But that data management tool and the listing will be a continual process. We'll just have a major update to the plan itself every 5 years. Kind of what you do with master plans. Kind of the same type of approach. So, do you have any questions for tonight?
Wow, what a comprehensive and mind-boggling effort. Does council have any questions for Mr. Payne?
I don't have so much a question. I don't want to say I read every word. That would be lying. But I did get through it. It was a fairly heavy scan. And I was very impressed. It's a good document. It's a good starting place. And I understand that it's a living document, so that's a very good thing. But I thought it was an excellent start and it's a really good foundation to build on. So I was impressed. I don't really have any questions because I don't understand most of it. So.
Councilmember Borelli, Ms. Mayor Cunha?
I just think it was a great presentation, and I thank you. And I'm also in the same league with John. I don't really understand the whole thing, but I know how important this water issue is to our county, and I am just really pleased to hear, especially when you talked about when you receive information that you're going to pass on the alerts, that that something's available or whatnot or whatever that we need to be informed about. I think this study was certainly needed, and I thank you very much for.
Go right ahead.
I actually do have a question. How, if any way, does this relate to the owner? I shouldn't use inflammatory language. The potential things that might come out of the State Water Resources Control Board regarding the runoff issues, stormwater runoff and pollution and the toxicities and stuff going into waterways and stuff, the kinds of things that we don't really, when we talk about our infrastructure in town, we always talk about, and then the drains, and then there's going to be a bunch of regulations, and then we get very sad and go have a drink after the meeting. So is there any relationship between these things? And if not, that's cool. You don't have to make one up, but I'm curious.
You want me to? So what part of this plan is to help support and facilitate you, El Dorado County, the water agency, ourselves. We really can't change the regulations ourselves, but what ends up happening out of those regulations is projects and cost burdens are placed upon you at your agency. And so part of our role and part of this plan is to help put those projects on to figure out how we can either address it as a region, as a county, to help combine resources, or to help pursue funding to help you get through those problems.
Okay. Just one quick question. First of all, I thought it was very interesting that you started off viewing stormwater as a resource, because certainly last Thursday, I don't think we would have considered that a resource. That was a major conflict.
We were rich.
Yeah, it was a
We were rich with resource.
Right.
We had all
didn't see
kinds
it
of
that way,
riches.
They came and visited our town.
Abundance fell upon us.
You have to be optimistic.
I thought that was a helpful framework, though, to rethink, stormwater and developing a plan. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I do have a question. I was, blown away by the map showing the land use on the western slope. I mean, my goodness, what a, jumble of different kinds of configurations of usage. And so my question is, how does diverse land use affect the development of a stormwater resource plan? Because I assume that different categories of land use have different requirements and regulations. And so how do you manage that conflict in a tight geographical area?
So our approach to that was forgetting the boundaries, the jurisdictional boundaries. What we did is we have subsheds within the county, within those urbanized areas, basically. The watershed, the green area, the open land, the forest areas, they have programs for themselves that we can try to piggyback on. Where we're focusing really is on that urbanized area or the rural areas of the county itself. So we divided those into subsheds and went through and tried to figure out and identify projects within those subsheds. And that was part of the prioritization in there. So, don't even consider growth. It's existing problems that you have right now. How do you go through and prioritize that to accommodate that? So, it's pretty complicated, I guess, to answer your question, because there's a lot of variables that we have to address. The project sheet, the project listing, I don't know, is that in the appendix? It's pretty comprehensive on the factors that we use to prioritize that, each project.
Well, it's helpful to know we have a comprehensive plan looking at all of that.
Yeah,
So
that's why you have these engineers here.
Yeah,
to look at
absolutely.
it, yeah.
And speaking of engineer, I have been remiss, and I do apologize. I'd like to introduce our associate engineer, Corey Schnitzel. How do you say your last name, Corey? Schiestel. That sounds, I like that. So anyway, Corey, we're delighted you're here tonight, and so thank you so much for filling in. So with that, I'd like to open up to the public if they have any comments on our stormwater resource plan.
No, I had a couple.
No?
When you close it.
Okay, I'll bring it back.
Wait, no.
Okay,
Sue Rodman's
Sue, come on
thinking
down.
about it.
We'll get some public comment, and then we'll bring it back to the council.
Storm drains.
Stormwater really does need to be treated as a resource because any water that comes in needs to be managed so that you can capture as much of it as you can and then manage so that it does not do damage. So China is actually doing what they call sponge cities, where they are designing so that they can fill their aquifers and keep their water tables up and retain as much water as they can, because they're an area that's subject to monsoon rains, and similar to what we had on Thursday, but they've figured out a way to, you would need to clean it as it comes in and be able to store it, use it, and take advantage of it, because water from any place is still a resource. And I'd like to ask, did I hear Alder Creek Reservoir?
It's on the list, yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That one we do need.
Good. All right, thank you, Sue. Anyone else? I'll close public comment. And Vice Mayor Cunha, you had a comment or a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Comment and a question, yes. Ken, thank you very much. I too had given it a heavy scan, as Councilmember Clarici said. Very involved topic, and water is just like gold always will be in California. And I think your presentation this evening really helped me understand, how we're going to work this system going forward as in a collaboration to benefit all of the various agencies. So thank you very much for coming this evening. One thing I would say, with something this complex, I know you're going to do an overview of this plan every 5 years. It would be helpful maybe in a year or two, when you start to have major successes, when you start to get grant money, certainly it would be good to see, more than just a staff report on something like this, because it's very complex. And if you don't keep it out in front of people, you know what's going to happen is it's going to shuffle off and gather dust. And we all realize we can have too much water and we can have too little water, and neither one of them are very enjoyable situations. So thank you for shepherding this effort forward. I thought it was interesting that Councilmember Clarici, that guy over there, mentioned a couple of folks that hadn't responded back, and they got me looking. I noticed that you did include SMUD or PG&E, and with their hydro projects, I would have thought maybe in SMUD cloud seeds, which certainly affects the amount of water that falls on the watersheds.
Yeah, the agency's actually working directly with those agencies, including the cloud seeding project that we have with them. I think once those get developed, then we'll look at integrating them in.
Okay.
However, to be smart, those agencies are very rich in funding, so you don't want to compete with them for the same grant money, right? So
we'll just keep ours a secret.
They have some.
That's my advice to you.
Okay. Now,
PG and who? Yeah.
They have those. They enjoy some rather unique water rights that we all know they would never get today if their projects were to come forward.
Yeah.
We're
working on that too.
So you just keep them at the table would be what I'd like to see you do. And if I could ask Pierre one question.
Of course.
And I appreciate his optimism that he notes that there's no impact to staff. But I got to imagine that there's been some PR hours spent on this. You've been attending a lot of meetings. You've obviously been giving a lot of really valuable input. What do you, not to put you on the spot, but there is an impact to taking away from your other duties.
Yes, there is, and as Mr. Payne pointed out, staff did see the opportunity to jump on board and definitely be a partner in this whole effort to develop the plan, and we certainly thank the Water Agency for making this happen. Yes, and I also want to point out that Corey Schiesel, sitting to my right, he was instrumental in filling out a lot of those forms that Rebecca from Stantec then was really encouraging us to expeditiously fill out so we can get our projects into the hopper, if you will. He provides a lot of the engineering details on these projects. And then one project I did want to mention, because I was thinking about Councilmember Clarici's question regarding pollution and that sort of thing, under the city's MS4 permit, we are looking at in the near future being required to figure out a way of removing pollutants such as trash and that kind of thing from entering our DIs. And so that was one of the projects that we included, is to hopefully get funding to do that, because that could be very expensive to the city in order to provide some kind of a screen, if you will, over our DIs to capture, paper and trash and that kind of thing that finds its way into stormwater runoff and then into the DIs and into our creeks. But you could see the maintenance issue on maintaining that is tremendous, because it's going to clog it.
Yeah.
And so anyways, that's one of the projects that we also included in the hopper as well to answer the council member's question.
Excellent.
But yes, there is time involved.
Well, I just
and I don't have a clear handle on how much time that was. I looked at it as more of a planning effort, and then of course we had our engineering effort as well on participating in this process. But I think as a living document, as the city formulates these various projects, we will just make sure that any projects that fit within the stormwater arena, we'll make sure it gets into the plan.
Thank you. I want to thank both of you. Corey, thank you. And as the budget approaches here in another month or two, we want to make sure that we have adequate funding to be on top of all of these, because I am very worried that the comments that Pierre just made about the items, the material that will no longer be allowed to go in the drains. And think of what just flowed into the drains last Thursday. I don't know how we're going to manage that, but obviously we're going to be told we will.
Maybe we can get a grant for a screen.
So thank you very, very helpful information. Thank you.
Budgetary impacts, perhaps, potentially.
Yeah, I have one question, but the other thing too is if you look at like trash racks on irrigation canals where they pull water in, and you very elaborate systems with conveyor belts, and they clog up eventually as well. But I can't even imagine. It's hard to imagine what you would put into a drain. You'd almost have to just have labor. They would just have to go and
just have to be out there all the time.
You'd always be cleaning up your drains. That's not the point. The point is, question. I am assuming that a lot of these projects in this plan will also involve, because I believe that there may be in some future infrastructure hardening and, like with, okay, I'm going to say it, and don't, anyway, with climate change, more severe types of storm situations, more severe types of flooding, less snow, more water in runoff, coming as, precip's still coming, but coming as water and not snow. And I'm assuming that then this document would be the one that would start to address those kinds of issues as well.
Yeah, ultimately it will. The Water Agency is working with the Bureau of Reclamation, Placer County Water Agency, City of Roseville, City of Sacramento on a climate adaptation strategy that we're working on right now. So, and that will, and it includes the City of Placerville, includes the county itself, and so with those types of modeling, that's the expensive part. We're taking on that burden of that cost, and we did get a grant from Bureau of Reclamation to pay for that analysis.
Good.
And they're actually a partner with us on that analysis. So that'll be used to help develop projects that will end up working with the City
Ken,
of
how much
Placerville
was
for.
that grant that you got from BLM?
We've got a series of grants. It's called the Basin Studies. It's under the Water Smart program. So we've gotten cumulatively about $500,000 so far for our share. So yeah, it helps, because the modeling is not cheap. So it's very expensive.
All right.
That's an excellent example.
Councilmember Borelli?
I have a question. On this one page, you talked about the cooperation with other agencies, and you just now mentioned Placer County, et cetera, et cetera. Do you also cooperate with them?
Yeah. Yes.
So, but I mean.
Yeah, we do. It's important. Again, it goes back to the expanding. You're increasing your chances for regional programs.
Right, and that's what I was curious about.
And it's not just grants. It's our county's 180,000 people total. So to get a stronger voice, we have to collaborate to advocate for our interests on regulatory issues too. So partnering with these entities really gives us a stronger voice. It gives us a venue for a stronger voice, not just for grants, but the regulations that we end up having to pay for.
So do you have quarterly meetings, or do you just, it's just sharing information?
We have several venues. So we have the Regional Water Authority, which is a joint power authority with El Dorado County and Sacramento County and Placer County.
Okay.
We have a CABI, which is the Consumnes American Bear.
Yeah.
So that's actually the projects in here will be put into their urban integrated water resource management plan. We also have a group called the American River Diverters, so Placer County, Roseville, Folsom, El Dorado. We do planning level strategic on state and federal issues together. So what we're trying to do is build the different resources between the agencies ourselves. So.
I just thank you. I know it works.
Sometimes.
I mean the cooperation.
Yeah.
Because we had the same issue like with transportation, and we're too small to do it alone. And when we started seeing results, it was when everybody banded together, and it really makes sense.
Thank you so much for being here tonight, Mr. Payne. Really appreciate the information and your work with our agency.
Well, thank you for
Yes.
allowing him to participate too.
Absolutely. Very grateful for your efforts. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And the action before us is to receive and file. Do we need to vote on this? No. Okay, we're good then.
Receive and file.
Duly noted, we have received and filed. All right. Item 12.2, adopt a resolution approving amendment number 4 to the existing consulting services agreement with Omni Means in the amount of $22,439.60 for additional engineering and design services for the Placerville Station Phase 2 project, Mosquito Road Overlay Project, Mosquito Road Sewer Main Replacement Project. Mr. Rivas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. As you're probably aware, the Placerville Station 2 project was adopted in the 06-07 capital improvement program as part of the annual city budget process. It's located adjacent to the existing park and bus facility at the intersection of Mosquito Road and Clay Street. The plans are now at 90%. The plans and specs have been prepared, but further revision is needed to include changes to the project scope. And basically that had to do with some of the existing infrastructure, the aging infrastructure in the vicinity of the construction of the project. And that includes water, sewer, storm drain, and roadway paving in the vicinity, that all those have reached the end of their life. Project design standards will also need to be updated to the 2015 Caltrans standards as a requirement to obtain an encroachment permit from the state to do the work that is falling within the Caltrans right-of-way. The item before you this evening is for approval of amendment number 4 to the existing Omni Means design contract to include the additional scope mentioned, along with an update of standards supported by the necessary funding appropriations outlined in staff's recommendations in the staff report. And again, to my right is Corey Schiestel. He is the project engineer for this, and at the pleasure of the council, he can certainly answer any questions you have on any particular details of this project. And with that, that concludes staff's report.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And behind us are drawings depicting the project, which are very helpful. Does council have any questions for our staff?
I have one question.
Vice Mayor.
With the approval of this item this evening, to either Corey or Pierre, how close are we to construction?
Good question.
Well, it'd be our goal to construct this season,
Ooh,
if possible. That is optimistic, but I do think possible still.
Okay.
We have a rough schedule that's still realistic, but we do have to, have some good fortune probably too, and but.
So you would be ready to bid at this construction season?
Yes, yeah.
That's a big step.
My rough schedule would be to advertise, to come back to the city council to advertise on the May 8th city council meeting.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so the plans are, for the parking lot are very nearly complete, as Pierre said. It's just that, since we're going to have that big project, and we have this aging infrastructure right adjacent to, this other project, it makes sense to, take advantage of the contractor already mobilized and probably better bid prices, and just do it all at once.
Right.
So we just need to add the portion in Mosquito Road into the parking lot plans. So. Right. And that's not a tremendous effort, so.
Yet it would make a tremendous difference to our
yes.
town. My
Yeah.
goodness, that Mosquito Road is in such a disarray and disrepair. And
it just flooded.
Yeah,
it's just about as bad underground as it is above ground.
Well, we could tell during the rains last week how bad it was underground. So.
Thank you, Corey.
We look forward to this project moving forward. Does members of the public wish to speak about this? Sue, come on down.
What kind of water is Sue going to talk about this time?
Sue Rodman, Vice Chairman of the Measure HL Committee. And this has been on our agenda for several years now, so I am really excited to see that it's going to make it. Yeah. Very good. And we recommended that we do this as one project and take advantage, as Corey said, of doing the water and the sewer and the road all in the same package. And Measure L now has made that a possibility because Measure H could only do the water and sewer but could not do the roads. So by combining the two measures and combining the project, this is going to be very good news.
Do we have signs?
Great.
Yeah, get our signs out.
Do we have
We
signs?
got to get our signs, your Measure HL daughters
right.
at work here. Because that's a big intersection. There'll be a lot of people be able to see that, so it would be
It's a
important
great place to
have our signs up there so they know
Exactly.
these are your dollars and they are hard at work.
We're very grateful to the community for seeing the need and being willing to invest in our city. Any other comments? All right, we'll bring it back to.
I'll move for approval of 12.2.
Second.
All right, may we have the roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, look forward to that. All right, with that, we're on item 13, reports from other agency meetings. El Transit Authority. Vice Mayor Cunha or Councilmember Braley?
When we met, we haven't met.
No, we haven't met, but,
No new meetings.
no.
Okay.
No.
While we're on it, Transportation Commission. Councilmember Braley, do you have anything to report?
Just that I did attend the CalCog conference, and I have to say, it was probably one of the best ones that I've been to, and I came home with all kinds of things that I think we can implement even for us here in Placerville, other than just the transportation. It was just chock full of all kinds of information, and it's been posted online, so I need to get that information so everybody can.
Yeah.
But it was just really, it was the most wonderful information were shared by the panel that they had. As I was saying earlier, one of them especially, my request on, no, it's leaving me, for our readiness, evacuation readiness.
Evacuation.
We had a lady there that had been in charge of the disaster at Montecito, and she told us all about what they went through to combat that situation. And at the time, they were waiting for another storm, so she had her telephone in one hand and giving us a report on the other. But it was just amazing. And then we had a lady who is from San Jose, and talking about evacuation, and shared a lot of things that I hope to pass on. I'm sure we know about some of them, and maybe we don't, because they've done a lot of studies and stuff. So anyway, it was just a great conference.
Well, thank you for representing us. Glad it was great. LAFCO?
We meet tomorrow at 5:30.
All right, SACOG?
We did have a meeting, nothing much to report on, except we had sort of a workshop on getting young folks involved and interested in government and government work, not just in the government side of it, but also working in the public sector. Don't want to get too deep into it, but there were some interesting things that we may be able to do, like potentially internships, but doing it in an organized way. You just don't want to throw people into it. There were several good programs. The city of Galt had a very interesting one, so I'll talk to Mark Cruz about that and come back with something, because I thought it was something that was kind of interesting. And anytime getting youth involved in this kind of stuff, I think is really cool. So, so anyway, that was kind of the one thing we talked about that really was kind of interesting.
John, that's one of the programs that CalCog has
This
initiated.
CalCog thing is amazing.
But they've been talking about it for about a year now for internships, and
Yeah.
in fact, they got a grant from Caltrans to help them get started, and it's really because we are losing so many of our expertise.
Yes.
Folks are retiring,
Exactly.
and they don't have the young folks. They have them, but they don't have enough knowledge. So these internships would provide them being able to, and one of the examples they gave of visiting, say, the port, going to LA and learning all about that part of it. And so it's really, it's recognized that we need to do these things.
Right, and we could use them to do public records requests. So I think they'd really be beneficial. Okay.
All right, item number 14, requests for future agenda items. We had 2 requests for us this evening. One was by Ms. Verkamp to extend the comment period on the draft EIR. Does any council member wish to put that on our agenda for future consideration in light of staff's information this evening?
No.
Okay.
I think we've been given adequate
so.
information, and I think it's been done. So.
Sure appreciate the open house we have coming up to allow the public to get their questions answered, and appreciate all the documents as noted in the draft EIR that they've been available. So
I think it was clearly stated that the wording that Cleve read directly from the document did exactly what it was intended to do by the authors, and that was it directed the interested individual as to where to go to find those documents. They contacted the city. I don't think anybody's out there.
No. There's one gentleman.
There's one gentleman. We have one gentleman left. So these project folks have gone home, but the document is proving that it's working. And so we've taken another additional step by posting over 2,000 pages of additional information online, as well as making it available. So I
As a
just think,
courtesy, right.
yes, and I think we just need to keep reminding folks that we are indeed doing our job. And we are being responsible with this project, and we have not made any decisions. And I think Pierre, one of the most powerful things he said was that they need to remember, this is the draft.
Right.
EIR.
And a lot of the information couldn't be disseminated
Yeah.
until we
We
got
are
it.
far from being to these points that a lot of folks seem to think we're jumping to.
We don't have a
And
project.
we're
We
not
don't-
jumping.
exactly. We don't have a
There
project
is
yet.
no project yet.
That's
So
right.
thank you.
And with the, as the court proved, you could have a ginormous, what was the reference? Administrative record?
5 feet tall.
5 feet tall.
And lose a lawsuit. So there you go.
All right. And the other request before us was to look at following suit with the city of Los Alamitos that is, that has taken action to basically withdraw from SB 54, the requirements of that. And I will just let council know that following their council action 2 weeks ago, well, actually, last Monday, I actually called the Mayor Edgar of the city of Los Alamitos and had a conversation with him about this regarding their process and how they arrived at that decision. We had a very comprehensive and productive conversation, and I believe council knows how I feel about this issue, that I fully support the Constitution of the United States and take the oath of office, as we all took, very seriously, as I know you all do too. I'm also cognizant of the fact that we're a council of 5 and that we take action as a council of 5. And so with that in mind, does any council member wish to bring this back to explore?
I don't wish to.
All right.
I'm just thinking that we've already, this has gone past this once, and we had enormous audience and kind of, I think, got the majority of opinion, and I'm not in favor of doing it again.
Okay. All right.
But I would like to take this opportunity. 2 things. My son's a cop, so I take cop stuff real seriously. So when I speak about this, it's not out of ignorance. I actually have skin in that particular game. I really think, though, that there is an opportunity maybe to engage the community on this subject. And I think that we might want to take that opportunity to do something where we bring some folks in, have a good conversation about it. Because we did have that previous meeting. And maybe that community engagement would then inform some future action by the council. I was thinking about this and because I read about what Los Alamitos did. And I was thinking, the actions are the actions, and they are what they are, and they'll say something about a community or not. But I think maybe more importantly, rather than just have a room full of people that will basically tell us what they told us the first time, there'll be people that are in favor of it, there'll be people against it, then we'll have to make a decision, and then, there won't be, this is a terrible way to have that engagement, as we discovered. But maybe have something where we could have a more constructive dialogue with the community about this particular subject and see what they say. And, we don't have to act as a council.
Right.
I would be more than happy to be part of that and bring some folks in and hear what folks have to say. I mean, in conversations about this subject, I thought what the mayor of Oakland did was reprehensible.
Yes.
But on the other hand, we don't get a chance to engage the mayor of Oakland. Now, I doubt if the mayor of Oakland would come up here, but there might be people that have that perspective that would be able to describe it to you. Now, you may not agree with them. You might still say, no, that's crazy, and I don't like that idea. But to get an idea of, to understand what the underpinnings are of decisions like that, and then get a broader range, talk to law enforcement, talk to folks that are involved in this stuff, to see how it's going, because we've been under these circumstances now for a little while, to find out how it's going and see what's really going on out there. So, because right now, if you ask me to make a vote on some sort of an action by this council to sort of take the opposite side of the state of California, I would not be particularly well informed on it, because I don't know what's going on out there. I don't know what kind of an impact it's had. I don't know if it's moved the needle at all in terms of how law enforcement, my guess is law enforcement is very talented, and they've learned how to get the bad guys off the street and deal with the state of California and the federal government all at the same time. But I don't know that. That's just my own thinking, and like I said, talking to my son about this issue. So anyway, I would like to see that happen.
And I'd be happy to work with you on that. I like it, that not as a council effort, but as a community members. I like that. All right. Okay. And anyone else that wishes to participate?
Did
All right.
Councilmember Wilkins have any comment on that item?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he kind of just.
No, I pretty much agree with John, and none of us, well, I agree with John. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
When we
all
get to the next agenda item, I have two things.
Okay.
That you just sparked my thought.
All right. So any other requests for future agenda items?
I would like an agenda item so we reorient the dais so that the person over here, because literally if I turn, I feel it's rude, if anything, and you kind of get lost. I feel like you get lost.
Well, I go like this, but
Yeah.
your head is
I
so
know,
covering
and
the mayor.
and nobody wants that. You know, so
Let's cut off John's
I
head.
don't know how would we.
We have an engineer. I bet you can come here with a sawzall.
Why don't we address that at our goal setting?
There
Our
you
council
go.
goal setting, because I agree, I don't like not being able to see staff. Let's chat about
The
that.
whole room needs help.
Okay.
That's
I
good.
could see
We
this.
need to re-engineer this whole thing.
Two, and we don't have to do this right away. We don't have to do this right away, but it came to my attention not too long ago. I don't know whether it was you that told me this or somebody told me this, that the mayor used to be 2 years.
No, years and years and years ago.
It was Kathy Lishman.
Yeah, maybe she was, we were at the Eschaton
Yes,
thing.
yes.
And it did happen
Bob
years and years
Salazar
and years
served for
ago.
2
Oh,
years.
John, you are oracle of false things from
Wake
the
up, John.
from the olden days. Let's
The
have
days of old.
There were occasions in the past where the mayor served 2 consecutive one-year terms.
Oh, so
So it was
Ms. Lishman made it sound like that used to be, because lots of cities our size do 2 years. They don't have it be 1 year.
I think our code provides that the mayor is to be elected each year, and what happened, it was almost a consensus, I think, because there were several individuals who served 2 one-year terms.
Because they did
So
such
they
a
were
good job that the council
as
wanted
mayor,
to
so,
serve
but it was
another.
pretty much by consensus at the time. But our code does provide, I believe, for election every year for mayor.
So nobody, so if they don't ask you to be the mayor again, it's kind of like you did a lousy job.
Yeah, sorry, John.
I wouldn't say that.
There's that.
Try not-
Well, he's
try not-
worried
try
about
not-
his next
I'll
mayor.
try not to take that personally, but okay. All right, then I'll pull it back.
Or that there
because-
weren't any eligible people coming up through the ranks that could handle it or something.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, I'll
don't
take
try to be
another-
nice to me.
I'll take another look at the code if you'd like to
No,
revisit.
that's
to
fine.
see
I'm
if
sure, I
there's
am sure you
something that-
recounted it
We can also talk
accurately.
about that at our goal setting meeting
There
if we
you
wish
go.
to
There
address
you
that.
go.
There you go.
Multifaceted event.
Gold, yes.
All right, city manager and staff
Wait,
reports. Yes, I'm sorry.
I just have one thing. I've seen Amgen.
No, well, that's coming up.
It's coming,
He's going to get to that.
when?
Well, he's,
Now, he's up now. City manager and staff reports.
And that's,
or upcoming events.
Okay.
We'll get there.
you see, you cut off.
That's fine. I keep getting cut off, but that's all right.
No, that's not all right.
It is all
Patty,
right.
what were you going to say about Amgen?
It's okay. I was just going to say, I haven't gotten my report back yet, so I didn't know if we were giving reports tonight or not. So I haven't gotten my report yet. And maybe you have, I don't know. Been
on
contacted,
Amgen
have you been
specifically?
contacted by the high school?
I have not.
They haven't
I'm
gotten
sorry.
back to
I'm
me.
sorry, no, they haven't, I haven't heard
They
anything.
were, okay,
No.
it's okay. I just didn't have a report.
Okay. Yeah, we do have a meeting, in fact, Patty, I don't know, do you
I
know,
didn't
but
know
there is a
about it.
meeting tomorrow at 10,
Ooh.
right?
That's right, 10
Yeah.
at town hall.
I did
upstairs.
not know about it.
So
Okay.
I'm sorry, you
Okay.
should have been notified on that. So anyway, we will be meeting, we're still going through planning on that, we're making progress and getting some good information.
great.
So, the only other thing I have, as I want to mention, I'm going to mention that this upcoming workshop, another upcoming workshop, and this is tentative at this point, but we think it's going to happen, and that's on April 11th on cannabis or marijuana and the potential for changing our current regulations on that. So we have this building scheduled for that night from 6 to 8. So we've got to put some information together, and I want to assure everybody, because if this information doesn't get out, we'll do our best. This won't be the only meeting on that, so there will be more opportunity, but this will be a beginning point to begin talking about that. So that will be on April 11th here from 6 to 8 p.m. in the
6
meeting.
to 8?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And are you leading the discussion?
I don't know. I'm organizing it, but yes, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is get, been working with the city attorney and the police chief to get a well-rounded presentation that looks at all aspects of it and both sides of it, because there are two different sides
Absolutely.
of that. So
Absolutely.
I've also been working with Councilmember Clarici a little bit on it. I've been talking to some people, and there's some opportunities there. So we just want to begin the conversation, get the information out. The only caveat to that we need to mention, that if we do decide to move forward and decide, as most other agencies that have allowed it do, present a special tax for it, that would have to go on the November ballot in order to do that, which means we have about an August 1st deadline normally for that election. So just another factor in there for us to consider in that process. But we'll provide all that data at the workshop. So.
Can I clarify something I said earlier? I just took a look at the code.
Okay.
And the code provides the council shall meet on Tuesday after the general municipal election and choose one of its members as mayor.
And that's all it says.
It's very vague.
Okay.
And so I think, you could interpret it as 2 years, you could
Interesting.
interpret it as a year.
That's kind of nice, Lisa.
But traditionally, what has happened, I believe those years when Kathy was mayor for 2 consecutive years, and I think Marion Washburn may have been in that situation, Bob Salazar, I believe, was. It seemed to me that it was considered every year, and it was pretty much a consensus that the individual would stay on as mayor for 1 more year.
Okay, thank you very much.
So you've already missed your chance, John. You should have asked this question.
Would you like me to step down?
You want to trade?
Sure.
Man, you could still be the mayor.
All right. All right, so upcoming items then. Our next regularly scheduled meeting on April 10th includes the Upper Broadway Bike Lane Transit Authority Agreement, a bond presentation, Amgen update, Sierra Tank Bypass, PPOA, and UCASE MOUs. Boy, that's a lot of
What's that?
A lot of letters. Green Valley Pavement Rehabilitation, Placerville Drive Crack Seal and Slurry Seal, and Upper Broadway Agreement with REY Engineers. So with that, wish you all a happy Easter weekend, and we will see you either at the Draft EIR Open House on April 4th or at the April 10th meeting of the City Council. So with that, good night. Thank you for being with us.